he's going to be giving a speech related to the speech contest, as Eric pointed out. And I participated in the speech contest last year in the humor speaking. You may find it debilitating to get up front and be a part of a contest, and be evaluated and scrutinized, and compete. But it's actually very fun, jovial, and you better yourself. It's a unique way, other than just coming here and at any other night giving a speech, getting evaluations. It's kind of fun to go through the contest portion and compete. Tonight, Lloyd Smith will be presenting the most recent version of the speech that he intends to give for the humor speech contest cycle, which is just beginning. His ultimate goal is a 5-peat, a fifth first place finish in the district final round in April. The contest speech is like this one, presents two interesting challenges. First, experienced judges at the district contest will judge the speeches not according to what they like best, but against the judging criteria. That highlights the contrast between a funny speech and a contest-style humorous speech. Second, Lloyd writes his contest speeches to be a big room speech intended to be presented on a stage in front of 100 or more people. He has found that it's not easy to present a big room mode speech when he's speaking in a small room. Please welcome Lloyd with the Guru speech.
I am a guru. It's actually true. A few years ago, people began emailing me asking for advice about their contest speeches. Several of those people later called me their speech guru, the poor deluded souls. I think in reality, they just wanted to avoid paying a real coach, so they asked me. I began to read a little bit about what makes a speech good. What I learned was that there are lots of people who are making a pretty good living writing books telling us obvious things. Have great content. Draw your audience into the speech with meaningful relationships. Oh, I never would have thought of those things if I hadn't looked at that stuff. My favorite was have an attention-grabbing introduction, because you want people to pay attention to your speech right from the start. What a great idea. I began to think, what is a good attention-grabbing introduction? And luckily, my 15 years coaching high school debate exposed me to about 2,000 speeches from among which to choose. Here's a great example of an attention-grabbing introduction. It's an early morning, 8 a.m. round of senior division expository speaking at the Gonzaga University Invitational Tournament. We're in a weird little room, or a weird big room actually, on the top floor of the administration building. It's at least 35 or 40 feet wide, but only about 10 feet deep, so the speakers are going to be standing almost within arm's reach. I call the first kid's code number, and a well-dressed young guy gets up, sport coat, white shirt, tie. He says, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Go for it." He lowers his head for a moment and then screams out, "Ki-ai!" and kicks out with his foot. I could see the bottom of his shoe coming right at my face. A second or two later, I was up against the wall, and then I heard a 10-year-old girl scream. I realized that little girl was me. The other contestants were also up against the wall, screaming. 3 or 4 seconds later, the door burst open, and 24 people from the other rooms where the contests were being held rushed in to find out what was going on. It took almost 15 minutes to clear the room out and get the round going. I had so much adrenaline grinding away inside of me, my hand was shaking, and I couldn't even write comments on the ballots. His speech was about martial arts, and the scream and kick was his attention-grabbing introduction. It sure was. I can still see that foot coming at me 35 years later. Now, on the other end of a speech, we're told it's really important to have a conclusion that sticks with the audience, something that makes the audience think for a long time after you stop speaking. Here's a great example. The first year I was coaching, I was at the Davis High School Invitational in Yakima. It's a 9:00 p.m. round of novice division interpretive reading, something every judge dreads. The idea of interpretive reading is to read a selection of prose or poetry and transmit its meaning using just the voice. No props, costumes, acting, excessive movement, anything like that. There were 5 kids in the round, 4 girls and a boy. One by one, the girls got up, and they were actually really good considering it was novice division early in the season. Then the guy got up. He did not want to be there. You could see that just radiating off of him. He was ill-dressed. He had a sport coat that was probably 3 or 4 sizes too big. He had a thin, reedy voice that didn't go along with his selection at all, and he started chewing away at it. I was trying to think of what I could write on my ballots to convince him to get a different extracurricular activity, but not to hurt his feelings. Then suddenly, near the end of his performance, he looked startled and clutched at his throat. And I thought, great, now I'm going to have to penalize him for acting. That's when he threw up.
Oh.
Well, he wasn't acting, anyway. The girls jumped up and ran screaming out of the room, gagging and yelling. And as I sat there, I thought, you know, there was nothing in my preparation to be a debate coach that had prepared me for the magical moment I had just experienced. I saw a custodian walk by in the hall, so I went out and told him what had happened. He thought about it for a second and said, golly, I really regret that such a mishap happened late in my shift on a Friday evening. I'd prefer not to deal with it, so I'm just going to lock that room up. And he did.
Oh, God.
I've often wondered what the teacher whose room that was thought 36 hours later on Monday morning when he or she opened the door. But not my zoo. I'm not responsible for what the monkeys did. Now, you may be wondering what I'm preparing for my conclusion of this speech, especially those of you sitting right up front. But you don't really need to worry. I've never enjoyed throwing up that much. When I was talking about this speech with some friends of mine who also speak in the contest frequently, one of them pointed out that it's probably always better to throw up during your own speech than to have the audience throw up after you're done. Now there is the wisdom of the guru. Mr. Toast.